Oh, hey! Sorry. You caught me with my friend here. His name's Jerry. That's a coincidence, because today, me and my friend Kenny are going to be talking about photosynthesis, that magical process by which plants obtain light and energy. Specifically, we're going to be talking about the light reactions. Let's take a look.
Photosynthesis is an anabolic process in which light is absorbed by an organism and used to break down water and carbon dioxide to use their energy to synthesize carbohydrates and oxygen waste. The pigment chlorophyll is the primary molecule that absorbs light in the majority of plants, at the red and blue extremes of the visible spectrum of light. Light is a form of electromagnetic radiation in which frequencies of high energy have shorter wavelengths. Additionally to waves, light can behave as a molecule known as a photon. Hey, just a little fun fact for you guys. The reason plants are green is because chlorophyll reflects light primarily in the middle of the visible spectrum, which would be green. Look at that. Look at that drawing. Look at that sexy drawing.
Pigments also reflect different frequencies of light besides green light, such as carotenoids, which are pigments that reflect orange light, such as in carrots. Now, there are two types of chlorophyll, A and B. The only difference between the two is that chlorophyll A has a methyl group and chlorophyll B has an aldehyde group. Because of this conformational difference, chlorophyll A is primarily involved in transmitting electrons and photons, while chlorophyll B is primarily involved in absorbing the light in the reaction centers of photosystems 1 and 2. Also, both chlorophylls have a magnesium ion at their center, which helps to absorb photons and light and then to release them once excited. Here's something that both chlorophylls have in common. When chlorophyll absorbs a photon, like right here, it gets excited, like right here. And then it eventually releases, like right here. By itself, chlorophyll is just a lone pigment. Together, many chlorophylls make up a light harvesting complex, which absorbs light and then converts the light into chemical energy. This light harvesting complex in the center here is part of a photosystem, which has other proteins that spans the entire thylakoid membrane. Here is just a detail of a photosystem on the thylakoid membrane. At the center of the photosystem is a reaction center, which is a series of proteins whose primary purpose is to convert light energy into chemical energy. This happens through molecular excitation, which causes the molecules to release electrons, which then goes through what is called electron transport. At the center of each reaction center is a reaction center chlorophyll. This reaction center chlorophyll absorbs photons and electrons, and it releases these electrons into the electron transport chain. Chlorophyll has two photosystems, 1 and 2. Photosystem 1 absorbs light at 700 nanometers, and photosystem 2 absorbs light at 680 nanometers. Both engage in what is known as electron transport. In plants, the oxidizing molecule is NADPH instead of NADH. NADPH is broken down into NADP and H, and the electrons then travel through the multiple proteins until they get to ATP synthase. The function of these proteins is to transport hydrogen ions against their concentration gradient. Then they get to ATP synthase. It takes energy and it traps it between ADP and inorganic phosphate. The ATP synthase uses the energy from the concentration gradient created by the traveling of the hydrogen ions, and it creates ATP. This occurs in both photosystems.
Now we're going to talk about cyclic phosphorylation. Photosystem 1, which absorbs light at 700 nanometers, the central chlorophyll of the photosystem absorbs an electron and has been released at the end of the electron transport. The chlorophyll then absorbs a photon. In an excited state, the chlorophyll passes an electron to an electron carrier, and the chlorophyll is then positive. The electron then reduces the proteins of chemiosmosis in order to produce ATP. ATP synthase, at the end of the chain, synthesizes ATP from ADP and inorganic phosphate. The electron is then once again absorbed by an electron-deficient chlorophyll at the center of a photosystem.
So now we're going to use the analogy of sponges to describe cyclic phosphorylation. As you can see, a sponge is used to portray photosystem 1, which absorbs light at 700 nanometers. Heat here represents the electrons getting absorbed by the sponge. Once the photosystem gets excited by the photon, which is this drop of water over here, and it releases the drop of water with the heat, which is the electrons, into the electron transport chain, which here is represented by a straw. The electrons and the energy flow down the electron transport chain down an energy gradient until they reach ATP synthase, where ATP is synthesized at this last red stripe over here. Then the electrons are released again by the electron transport chain and absorbed again by photosystem 1, which is once again symbolized by this drop of water. And the cycle continues infinitely. Unlike cyclic phosphorylation, non-cyclic phosphorylation uses both photosystems. It starts with photosystem 2. First, water is oxidized into 1/2 oxygen gas and 2 hydrogen ions, as well as 2 electrons. The electrons are absorbed by the center chlorophyll of photosystem 2, along with a photon of light at 680 nanometers. The chlorophyll, having entered an excited state, releases the electrons. The electrons then reduce proteins involved in chemiosmosis, or electron transport. This occurs inside the thylakoid membrane to synthesize ATP. These electrons are then absorbed by the center chlorophyll of photosystem 1. After the chlorophyll gets excited and releases electrons, those same electrons then reduce an electron carrier protein, which then transfers the electrons to NADP reductase, which reduces NADP and hydrogen ions into NADPH.
So to summarize the concept of non-cyclic phosphorylation, we're going to use the analogy of sponges.
So first, a sponge absorbs heat, which in this case is supposed to resemble the electrons from oxidized H2O. Now over here is the photon of light, which is represented by a droplet of water that the sponge absorbs. Now, once the sponge gets excited, so to speak, it releases the water droplet, which is supposed to resemble the electrons getting released. The water droplet then travels through a straw, which is supposed to resemble electron transport. The water droplet then travels through the straw, which is supposed to represent how electrons travel from protein to protein in the thylakoid membrane electron transport, going down an energy gradient, which is resembled by the straw here going downhill. Now, the electrons, after they go downhill, they reach this last stripe on the straw, which is supposed to resemble ATP synthase, where ATP is synthesized as indicated by that straw, or by that arrow, which you can see above. Now, the droplet of water, which is the electron.
Say it again, say that part again.
Now, the droplet of water is absorbed by the sponge for photosystem 1, as you can see here, which is the electron, which is supposed to symbolize the electron getting absorbed by the sponge, as well as the photon getting absorbed by the sponge as well. Now, what happens is the sponge gets excited, and it releases the electrons again to a carrier protein, which is resembled by a smaller sponge, as you can see here, which has heat because it's carrying the electrons. This carrier protein then travels to NADP reductase, which is symbolized by this little sponge over here, which then takes NADP and the electrons, and together makes ATP. NADPH. Sorry. And now for a rap to summarize everything. Alright, yo. Yeah. We're gonna do a video. Yeah. Yeah, hold up, get the beat. Alright, let's go. Low rap. Yo. PHOTO. What? PHOTO. What? Yeah. PHOTO. SYNTHISIS. Caleb and Kenny explaining the process, making it easy to retain the context just by simply using the biology context. Now hold up, slow it down a little. Teach it to the students real easy and simple. Now look, it all starts with a little bit of fun. So break down cards and see what when you're done. The pigment chlorophyll is the real molecule used in the process of thoughts for real. Hey, since we're talking about plants, it's doing something good. Oh, fun fact, even though it can't be seen, the reason plants are green. Chlorophyll reflects light from man relief, but in the middle of the spectrum, and let's shift to magnetic radiation, high energy frequencies, the creation. Now before I go to something you should know, photon is the main molecule involved. Now there are two types of chlorophyll, A and B. Now there are two types of chlorophyll, A and B. They both have carbon ring structures, amazingly. We merge these ions at the center, and a hydrocarbon tail that serves as a thylakoid membrane anchor for the chlorophyll. Pigment B, however, has an aldehyde group instead of a methyl, because it's a chemical rebel. But when they both absorb light, they enter an excited state for chlorophyll's peculiar treating to a stable rate of metabolism once the electrons are missing. Did that match? And chlorophylls are organized in photosystems. Wait, let me give you the context. Photosystems are made up of light harvesting complexes. Photosystems are organized in antennas, where light is absorbed and also reflected all over the thylakoid and chloroplasts. More than that, each system has a reaction center with the ground level chlorophyll at the center, and yet there is more than one photosystem. Yup, there are two. Electron transfer is something that they both go through, and similar to in cellular respiration, transfer synthesizes ATP through the creation of an electron gradient to ATP synthase, absorbing light from the sun, most radiant. Yeah, 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 yeah. Cyclic fossil uses photosystem 1 only.
And by itself, believe me, it gets quite lonely. The system sets chlorophyll absorbs an
Electron.
electron, chemiosmosis, and then it
Absorbs a photon.
and enters an excited state of energy.
And the green chlorophyll ejects the negative to a carrier protein, which is sent to the osmosis chain of proteins to synthesize ATP. ATP synthase at the end of the chain uses ADP and inorganic phosphate to create the molecule of energy exchange, and the electrons are then once again absorbed by an electron deficient chlorophyll and the center of Uno photosystem. Ha, 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 yeah. Whoa. Now listen close to the rhythm, cause non-cyclic phos uses both photosystems. It starts with system 2 when water is oxidized into TH10, and it should not surprise that 2 electrons break off as well. Now this is where they are absorbed by chlorophyll, it is not hard to tell. And photosystems dose at the core, and then a photon of light is taken in at a radiomagnetic frequency of 680 nanometers. And chlorophyll itself, well, it doesn't get weaker, it gets excited. And once the electrons ignite and they get ejected, but once they get divided, they reduce proteins in the electron transport in the thylakoid membrane. They send each other toward ATP synthase. Now this is the big phase where ATP is made with energy encased between ADP and inorganic phosphate, speeding at a top rate, folded together by F1 of synthase. And the electrons escape the photosystem 1 where light absorbed at 700 nanometers, by the center chlorophyll and then the shining sun. Sends a photon and it excites all of system 1. To the point where the electrons get shunned, and then they reduce a carrier protein, which is used to reduce NADP into NADPH. Yeah, we done. Think of that shit.
Think of that, man.
Good, you know. Alright, cool.
4 minutes, dang.
That's longer than the rest of our video.
P-H-O-T-O. Okay, guys. Hope that was helpful.
That was fun.
That was fun. See ya. Thanks for watching our video, guys. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope it was
Adios.
helpful. Photosynthesis.
And now for some bloopers.
Hey! No, I messed up. So to make the... Okay, try that again. Hey! Oh, I messed up.
Okay, so unlike Hello there. Hello.
Just go.
And that is the end. Goodbye.